Hey guys, Jay here. So today we're talking about my main CD player. And dollar for dollar, I still believe that CD players sound better than streaming. And I think that's nothing new. If you've been following me and my channel for a while, you know that I believe that very strongly. And I've been through several CD players trying to find the perfect CD player. And thus far, the best sounding for me was actually the portable Shanling CD player I reviewed a while back. And that unit sounded really organic, really musical, and I absolutely loved it because it had an R2R DAC inside, also with a tube output. But that was more of a battery powered, portable unit like I said, and I wanted something more for a 2-channel, a full-size, CD player like that. And just recently, Shanling came up with this. This is the SCD 3.3 CD player, and it has a very good R2R DAC inside as well as a tube output stage. And it just checks off a lot of the boxes for me, including the sound quality. This is probably the best sound quality I've heard out of a CD player, regardless of the price point. Like, this really sounds absolutely amazing to me. But let's not get ahead of ourselves here because not everything is perfect, right? There are some stuff that we need to go over here. So let's start with the features and the build quality and the things that I liked about it and didn't like about it. Now, fair warning, there's a lot to like about this unit. Starting with the chassis, I think it's built very well. It's CNC aluminum. And you also get this feet that seems pretty substantial. You're not just getting some rubber feet, you're actually getting a pretty substantial actual isolation feet that seems worthwhile having on a unit like this. Nothing about this unit seems rather cheap. In fact, it feels very high quality and expensive, including the top loading mechanism, which I really love. Much more durable than the tray type, so it's gonna last you longer, at least it's supposed to. And it also comes with this puck, and we've seen this CD puck from Shanling CD players in the past, but it was usually rubber or metal. This time it's wood. And I actually saw this wood when I went to Shanling in the factory tour I did in China. And from what I've been told and saw when I was at Shanling's factory once again, is that they do extensive blind A/B testing, very tedious process to find out which components should have this wood piece. And this time around, we're getting it on the puck. So they're calling this the tuned puck, so to speak. And well, I'm calling it that. It's a tuned puck. But again, some may say it's snake oil or it's BS, but at the end of the day, it looks nice. I like it. It's just a puck. But yeah, I prefer wood, and we get a nice wood puck here. Now, this being a CD player, I really love the fact that you can play all the types of CDs, not just SACDs, but you can play normal CDs, SACDs, MQA CDs, you can play them all. So that's great because I have quite a few SACDs, but I also want to be able to play CDs, and I really hate SACD players that cannot play other CDs. I feel like that's just a lot of money to spend on just an SACD player. So yeah, I really love the fact that you can play any CD and it will sound great on this unit. And once again, one thing that I really like about the feature and the build quality of this unit is that it has an R2R DAC inside. So it's not just a throw-in DAC in here, you get a full R2R DAC. And again, it reminds me a lot of the original Pontus from Denafrips with that warm sound and that airy kind of presentation. The R2R DAC in here is phenomenal. If they just had this unit without the CD player mechanism and it was just a DAC with a tube output, absolutely banger. Like, really good DAC in here. So you're not just getting a throw-in DAC, it's just a really good DAC in here. And of course, that's married to the tube output. And this is a true tube output. It's not a buffer, right? You're not getting a cheap buffer or anything like that to mimic a little bit of that tube sound. You're getting a full tube output stage. And that just marries so well with R2R DACs. And they just did a really good job of the tuning here. Just airy, holographic, 3-dimensional. Absolutely love the fact that this is an R2R DAC with a true tube output. You hear the excitement in my voice, and I'm truly excited. Every single time I look at this unit, it's just a catnip for audiophiles like me. R2R DAC, tube output, that's the way to go. I absolutely love it. And get this, you can actually use this unit as just the DAC, and that's why I was able to test just the DAC section, right? I'm not pulling this out of my ass. You can, because it also has USB input and output. So you can add a streamer, for example, like the Eversolo T8 or your computer, right? And you can plug it in and use just the DAC with the tube output stage on this unit, which is just absolutely phenomenal. This doesn't have to be just your CD player. It can be used as the DAC for your streaming setup as well. So you can have a streamer integrated to the whole thing, and the DAC inside and the tube output is worthy of being used like this as well. So again, phenomenal integration. I love the fact that they have both USB input and output, and that's very rare on a CD player. And talking about the tubes in this as well, that's one thing that I really appreciate about this unit as well, is that the 12AT7 tube here, the fact that we're using 12AT7 is a great thing. We're not getting some Chinese, weird tubes out there that can't be changed easily. 12AT7s have been around. You can use new old stock tubes. You can get new tubes. There's a lot of choices out there to replace it. And it's only using 2 of them, so it's not going to cost a lot to replace it. And these tubes are supposed to last 5,000 to 10,000 hours, which can last you about 1 to 2 years with normal playback. Now, I also love the fact that not only is this a true tube output stage, but the tubes itself was made from ground up by Dr. Kai, who is a tube, vacuum tube designer. He designed this tube to be specifically tuned to match this unit right here. So that's a lot of effort. So you can definitely tell that the tube output stage was not a second thought. It was part of the design choice, part of the entire design of this unit. It's really the soul of this unit. And once again, a lot to love about this unit because it has both RCA and XLR output. A lot of CD players out there just has RCA, and for me, I want XLR. I think that's pretty important because sometimes I run long lengths of cables to my main setup because I don't want to have my rack between my speakers. Just something that I just personally don't like to do. So this is very useful. I love the fact that it has both RCA and XLR output. And another checklist that this checks off for me is that it has I2S output. Now, you don't get an I2S input, digital input, unfortunately, but you do get a I2S output. And this is really important because as great as this DAC inside is, DACs change. And maybe you'll come across something that you really like. Maybe you'll upgrade to, maybe you will win the lottery and, get a flagship DAC, but you still want to use this CD player, and you can. You can use the I2S to connect to any other DAC that has an I2S. For example, I have the Live U DAC that I'm testing right now that has an I2S input, so I can use that DAC as well if I wanted to with this CD player, which is excellent. And in the menus, you can configure the pinouts for the I2S because many other DACs out there may have different I2S configuration, and so you don't have to run into the compatibility issues because Shanling has all these pinout options for the I2S. And get this, through this I2S, you can play native DSD up to DSD 512. Now, for SACD playback, however, is capable up to DSD64, and unfortunately, USB doesn't support DSD on this unit. But that is how it is, it's just through the I2S. And yes, I love the fact that it has a 5-inch touch screen, and the menu system is easy to use, it's user-friendly, I like the UI, very simplistic, and it's really nice. But you also do get a remote, which is excellent. But you also get physical buttons, which is also excellent because when we have a touch screen like this, a lot of companies out there forego the buttons. And so I really like the fact that you still get physical buttons in this unit. And they actually feel pretty nice as well, pretty high quality. Okay, so with all that out of the way, let's touch upon some of the stuff that I didn't like about the build quality and the features of this unit. Starting with my primary complaint. Way too hard to tube roll with this unit. Way too hard to change the tubes because a lot of screws have to be removed, and basically you have to open up the entire unit to change the tubes. And I feel like this is a missed opportunity because they could have just added a little window, few screws to unscrew at the bottom of the chassis to remove the tubes or something like that to make it way more easier. I feel like, removing the tubes on this unit is just a big hassle. Second thing I didn't quite like about this unit can be also used as a preamplifier by changing it to variable output from fixed output inside the menu on this unit. Now, the preamplifier is okay, it's actually pretty good, but I also felt like my external preamplifier or the preamplifier inside my integrated amplifier, like my Accuphase for example, just sounded way better. So I wouldn't really use the pre-out on this unit, and I do wish there was a little bit more attention paid to the pre-out. And I do feel like while the DAC and the tube output stage was not an afterthought, the preamp capability may have been a little bit of an afterthought. So not so hot on the pre-out on this unit. Now obviously try out the pre-out inside this unit as well as your own integrated or external preamplifier. Do what works best for you, but I'm just reporting my personal experience. I wasn't too happy with the pre-out. Now another thing that I wasn't so hot about is that, well, you can add your own hard drive stored music and you can play it on this unit. The only thing is that the USB plug is in the front. The USB-A is in the front of this unit, and it is capable of playing DSD512 up to 2 terabytes of hard drive that you can plug in here, but it's in the front of the unit. And I feel like you could have just added this on the back of the unit, which makes more sense. I think the front is just a bad placement. It just ruins the look of the unit in my opinion. So yeah, not so hot about the placement of that USB. And maybe this one I'm just nitpicking a little bit, but it does have Bluetooth 5.0 and that's why the antenna is there. And this is apparently popular in their domestic China market, but I don't buy personally, I don't know about you, but I don't personally buy a $3,900 CD player to use Bluetooth with it. So practically useless for me. I will never use Bluetooth on this unit. Okay, lastly, this has nothing to do with the reliability or the durability of this unit. The unit that I have here is fine. I've not had a problem since I got it. But I do have some feedback from others that have owned Shanling products in the past in my comment section. As well, my Onyx review that I did, right up to the point where I made my review, the thing was just working absolutely fine, no problems whatsoever, and it was built very substantially well. I didn't think that it was going to have any problems, but it started to develop some kind of mechanical noise right after my review. So here's an update. Yeah, that happened. So rightfully, I'm a little bit worried about the reliability of this unit, and it doesn't help that it's 1 year standard warranty. Now, thankfully, there's a solution. And the solution is that I actually found a retailer that offers a longer warranty, 3 years on this unit specifically, and 1 year on the tubes itself. And actually, it is the same people that's taking care of my Onyx. I bought the Onyx from them, and as soon as I mentioned the problem, they were like, yeah, no problem, we'll take care of you. And they're just genuinely good people that want to take care of you. So if you are worried, then I recommend getting your Shanling CD players from this dealer specifically. I'll make sure to link them in the description below. So with that out of the way, let's talk about sound quality and the things that I liked about it and didn't like about it. Now, to be honest, there is not much I didn't like about the sound quality on this unit. It's a phenomenal sounding unit. Exceptional. And I've gone through a lot of CD players and, even audio notes. This is by far the most musical sounding unit that I've come across. I mean, it is my main CD player. I don't see myself changing to anything else for a long, long time. Now, I say this, but if something really, really good comes along, then maybe. But for $3,900, phenomenal. You're getting a lot here. You're getting a R2R DAC that's equivalent to like a $2,000 R2R DAC. That's very, very good. Tube output stage, just phenomenal sound quality. Very musical, right? So let's start with the bass. Bass, texture, out the wazoo, and of course your speakers have to be capable. Now, if you're not gonna get a speaker that has that bass capability, then even if the CD player has that bass capability, it's not gonna be transferred, right? Your speakers have to be capable first. So for example, like the Kalish Model 7s that I just reviewed that has an acoustic suspension design with a 13-inch woofer, texture out the wazoo. And it's a totally different experience than if you were to stream to the Kalish Model 7s versus using the CD player. Using the CD player, texture, just wonderful, right? Just the musicality, the texture, the fullness, the analog bass, the warmth that feels like it's hugging you. It's just absolutely phenomenal bass. Phenomenal. Now, I don't really have much complaint with it because I know what I'm supposed to be getting with an R2R and a tube output stage. But the only complaint is, I guess, if you are looking for a very clean bass, right? Very clean, analytical bass, fast attack and decay as fast as possible, you're not gonna get that here with this, right? This is more of a musical bass with texture and nuance and detail, but detail in a way where the bass textures can be more felt, more rounded, more full-bodied. So yeah, the bass, absolutely phenomenal. Just absolutely love the textures that comes from the CD player. Hey guys, Future J here. So I just wanted to give you guys my raw take on the mid-range of the SCD 3.3 CD player. Now, we're going to talk about tube rolling and changing the tubes here in a minute because it pertains to the mid-range. But talking about mid-range, so one of the main reasons I got this unit was for that mid-range. You know, the mid-range is spectacular, very musical on this unit, and it is the majority of the stuff that we listen to. So it is very important. That mid-range balance and how musical that mid-range is very important for me, especially in a CD player. Yet, it is the most difficult to explain in a video verbally what I'm experiencing in that mid-range, because it's not like the mid-range has a lot of coloration or has dips and peaks in the frequency that makes it kind of like a unique sound. No, it's far from that. It's a pretty neutral sound that you get here. Yet, it's so hard to explain what I'm experiencing because there is a coloration. So overall, in terms of the overall sound, if I have to pinpoint it, I would say it's ever so slightly warm side of neutral in the mid-range, the overall tone. However, that's not the only coloration that you get. You get that R2R and tube output stage coloration. And for those of you that have had R2R DACs before or had a tube preamplifier or a tube output stage unit, then you may understand me better. But this is the best way I can describe it. The coloration I'm getting here is that layering in the sound that is done exceptionally well on this unit. And I think that comes from the R2R network. And what I mean by layering is that, well, when you hear music, it's not just like when you pluck a guitar, it's that one note and then it's done. There is harmonics that follow that pluck. Same thing with the lyrics sang on the last note from a singer. Same thing with saxophone, virtually every instrument, anything that's real. That's what makes it sound natural to my ears. It's that harmonics that follow, that elastic feeling, and that's done to perfection on this unit. You get great layering between you and the system, and you also get great layering between each notes and each instrument, each singer on the stage. There is a good amount of harmonics that is rolled off perfectly to fill in those gaps. And that makes this CD player sound full-bodied and doesn't sound lean. It sounds musical. It sounds lifelike. It sounds natural, like as if you're hearing the instrument three-dimensional inside your room. And that's the effect you get. And I know that's cliche, but that's exactly what you get with this unit. And that's why I love it so much. In fact, out of all the R2R DACs I've reviewed thus far, which is a lot, and tube preamplifiers and so on, it's one of the most realistic type of layering and that elastic feeling in the tone that I get with this unit. It's not bright, it's not forward, it's very neutral and balanced, but it is those little details, the layering, the nuance in the music, the textures that come through in that mid-range that makes the vocal sound so sweet, so engaging emotionally, and it just makes my enjoyment with the music just that much great. And it fills the room, it's a three-dimensional sound. You're not getting like a 2D wall sound. You get this almost like a for the lack of better words, like a multi-channel surround almost, right? It just fills the room and it's three-dimensional in the room. You hear things to the side and it just fills that presence in the room that makes it so musical. Now, the reason I bring this up in this section is because, well, some of that can be changed with the tube rolling. Now, as you've seen, it's an absolute pain in the ass to change tubes on this unit. And for better or worse, I guess good news for you guys, bad news for me, I've done a lot of tube rolling with this unit in the time I had it. So I have a bunch of tubes here, new old stock tubes that I've been playing around with. And it just so happens, I honestly thought it would blow, the new old stock tubes would blow the stock tubes out of the water in this thing, because usually stock tubes are never the best, right? But in this case, perhaps because the tubes were made for this unit specifically from ground up, I have to say the stock tubes work really well on this unit. It's the perfect compromise between layering, between texture, and that airy presentation. Now, with the new old stock tubes that I've tried, and I've tried quite a few, and I'll link to a few that worked well for me in the description below, but virtually every single one of them had a similar effect with this CD player, for better or worse, and that was that it kind of mellowed out that mid-range quite a bit, and it was very smooth sounding. So if you're into jazz, maybe that's kind of your jam. But personally, I didn't think it was a worthy upgrade, especially considering that the stock tubes are free, and the new old stock tubes cost quite a bit of money. So I expect a pretty substantial upgrade if I'm gonna, put a new tube in this thing. Now, the only other tube that I would consider that is not new old stock that I've been playing around with for a while is the Ray tubes. The Ray Select 12AT7s, excellent tubes, and I've been playing around with it. And I would say even that's not really an upgrade from the stock tubes here, which is very, very interesting. You do get a little bit more airy presentation, which was quite satisfying with the Ray tubes, but at the expense of that texture and that layering that you get with the stock tubes here. So yeah, it's a pain in the ass to open it. So if you are someone that is not really a tube roller, and even if you are like me, I've done the work here. It is a pain in the ass to tube roll each time, and I didn't see a substantial upgrade from the stock tubes. So yeah, stock tubes in this thing is pretty darn good. It's tuned for this unit, so I wouldn't change it. So yeah, back to the video. Everything I can ask for in terms of a musical mid-range. And yes, I have my main streaming setup with the Meitner MA3i, which is a very high-end setup, and that is very neutral, yet still sounds very analog, but it's a totally different experience from the CD player. The CD player at $3,900 gives off a lot of musicality, just enjoyment, right? It's almost like the Sonos Faber of CD players, and really inviting. This has a lot of life, a lot of soul in that mid-range that I could ever ask for. It makes my system sound so musical, I can rave about it all day. Now, moving on to the high frequency of this unit and the things that I liked about it and disliked about it. Now, in terms of the dislike, I'll start with the dislike. In terms of the dislike, I wish it was a little bit more airy. Now, you can get that with tube rolling, but personally, just straight out of the box with the tubes inside, which again was tuned specifically for this unit, it sounds phenomenal, right? It has a lot of air, it has a lot of spaciousness, and I'm perfectly satisfied. But it's that inkling, right? You just want that a little bit more. And I wish that it was a little bit more airy. And that's just a minor complaint or minor dislike, I should say. I'm really nitpicking here. But yeah, overall, airy, spacious, and it has good detail, airiness, and everything that I could ask for in a high frequency for, again, an R2R and a tube output stage, but with very good refinement. I mean, the refinement just is next level. For a CD player, absolutely wonderful. And even if you stream to this unit, once again, using the DAC inside and the tube output stage, again, you get that really nice airiness and refinement. So a lot of the refinement, I feel like, is in that R2R and the tube output stage. And when you use the CD player, when you use this unit as a CD player, you get that even more in spades. Because again, I personally feel that CD players just rule in terms of sound quality dollar for dollar compared to streamers. But yeah, just the high frequency, no problem, never bright, never forward, yet has all the airiness and detail that you can ever ask for. So highly musical, once again, in that kind of way. Soundstage. Now, I've been waiting and dying to talk about the soundstage of this unit, because that's one of the main reasons you get this unit. Yes, the tone is great, has that musical mid-range and all that kind of stuff, but man, the soundstage of a tube output married to an Artois DAC done right, done to perfection, I would say, on this unit. Phenomenal. Holographic, three-dimensional, it feels like the artist and the instruments are in my room. And as cliche as that term or phrase is, it's absolutely true. It makes my system come to life. It breathes the musicality into my system. And yeah, that's, I guess, one of the reasons you get a component like this, right? It just adds that three-dimensionality and the holographicness into my system that makes everything sound more musical, inviting, and it's a experience, right? Like, play Pink Floyd on this unit, absolutely insane. But also put like the Sound album, whew, the texture, the mid-range, right? And the Sound album, if you don't know, is a recording that I helped to record in a live recording inside one of the best acoustically best church in Mirabel in Montreal. And if you don't know this track, it's my reference track, reference CD, right? Check it out. You used like the Neumann M150, $10,000 microphones per microphone, mind you. And it has like harp, battle harp, big battle harp that can go down to the subregions, double bass, cello, soprano, violin. Absolutely insane, right? So from texture to all the way the dynamic range, absolutely incredible with a CD player like this. Full glory, absolutely portrayed in its original masterpiece, and that's a high praise, considering I'm the one that helped record it and was in the the entire process throughout the project. So anyways, if you want to check the CD out, check the link description below. I highly recommend you get it. It's a really good test CD player because we use the absolute best for the microphone setup and the gear. And as you guys know, I've worked at a high-end retail store, and also I have many friends that have high-end systems, and I've heard from Macintosh, name, you name it, esoteric. I've heard many CD players and in the $10, $20, $30,000 categories as well, and not one of them had the musicality like this CD player. Now, I'm not saying that those CD players aren't good or isn't musical. For me, I just love the tone and the musicality that this CD player brings for only $3,900. It is just, put it up against any of those CD players, I guarantee you that it's going to be as musical, and a lot of people will love the Shanling more than even those CD players. And I know that's a bold statement, but yeah, I've done a lot of comparisons to find the perfect CD player for me, and out of the ones I compared, even the really high-end ones, this one is just top-notch, exceptional. If emotional connection with the CD collection that you have is what you're looking for, this, I think, is a very good choice. But yeah, that's all I have to really say about this unit. It's highly musical. I highly recommend it. And yeah, it's my main CD player, and you will see a lot on my channel because that thing isn't going anywhere unless I find something absolutely better, right? And even if it does, I feel like it will cost more because you're getting a lot for the value. And I know $3,900 is not inexpensive by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the build quality, the Artois DAC, the tube output stage, and everything combined that you're getting here, the ability to play all the CDs and so on, I think you're getting a lot for the money. So I think the value is there, but you let me know what you think in the comment section. Is it too expensive? For something like this, I think it is just right on the dot. I think this is very high value and something that I haven't seen in a long time in the hi-fi market with inflation and this and that, all these, stuff happening in the world. I feel like I haven't seen a hi-fi product that really tickled my feathers for the right price. And I think this one really hits it home. Just clicks off so many of the checklists that I had for a CD player, so I'm very happy with it. So yeah, this is more of a kind of testimony, love confession as a person that is a customer for a CD player like this, more than a review, I would say. So yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section, and I'll try to answer every one of your questions. If you have any questions with the CD player, let me know in the comment section. I'll answer each one because, I've been playing around with it, absolutely love it. I know everything in and out about the CD player at this point. So ask away, and all I ask is that you click that like button and subscribe to this channel for more videos just like this. And that's about it. I'll see you guys on my next one. Until next time.